I've got some amazing, well, these women that join the stage with me are formidable. They're inspiring. They're different in every way. I met Tehmi at the International Women's Day photo shoot that took place at the Grand Hotel.
Yes.
That was January now, wasn't it?
Yes, we got chatting and you persuaded me to come and talk. It's very cheeky.
And here we are now.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, as we were all introduced to the stage, my name is Kirsty Davies-Chinnock. I'm the Managing Director of Professional Polishing Services Limited, and we're the UK's largest mechanical surface finishing company for stainless steel and other non-ferrous metals. We do things like polish the outside of Grand Central Station, and I've been in the metal sector for 35 years. So having been in the manufacturing sector for a very, 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 very long time, I've seen women's roles change completely. We're a lot more visible now. There is still only 29% of women in the manufacturing sector compared to men. Most leadership roles are held by men. And Neo, who's sitting to my right, I met Neo when she was a guest on my Women in Industry podcast, which is another one of my businesses. And Neo described herself as an accidental manufacturer. And we all describe ourselves different ways. I'm a traditional metal basher. So Neo, why did you describe yourself as an accidental manufacturer?
Hi everyone, I'm Chatyoka. I'm the founder of Uhuru Botanical. I would say I describe myself as an accidental manufacturer because I started making my skin and hair care products in the kitchen and then moved on to, as the business grew, I moved on to the garage, and that's where I started, that's where I continued to grow my business. But when I moved into a factory, my own factory, that's when I realized actually this is manufacturing. This is what they call manufacturing. And so when I actually described it to Kirsty, I was like, I didn't actually understand that manufacturing is actually what I was doing, making skincare products, packaging them, and actually selling them worldwide. So, yes.
And Tehmi, in your sector in construction, what changes have you seen in your career with regards to the role of women? Have there been changes?
Sorry. Hi, everybody. So, I started my career in fashion retail and did that for 30 years. And I find myself in construction and a woman in construction, employing many women in construction. And we've just created a company that we did a count this morning, didn't we, girls? And we're more than 50% women in our company now, which is quite unusual for a construction company. And the changes that I've seen is, I've only been in construction for 12 years, but when I started day one, it was all men. They all spoke in construction language until I started asking them awkward questions like, what does C24 stand for? It's a grade of timber. It's like, well, say that then. So, we started peeling back layers of just a traditional male environment and adding a little bit of magic to it, and it's completely changed. And over the years that I've been in construction, I see that in many, many organisations. It's not even a thing anymore to say that it's male dominated, I don't think. I think in the operations teams it is, but in the management sort of C-suite, not at all. So I do think there's a perception problem, and I think our responsibility is to start getting into schools and colleges and get them while they're young. I have 3 granddaughters, and I hope that they will all come into my business in one way or another, whether that be in design, architecture, structural information, any of the things that they feel they can contribute, I would encourage them. My eldest granddaughter passed her 11 plus and is off to a great school. And I just sat her down and started saying, you're 10, but you need to start thinking from now, and I want to present you the opportunities that are in front of you. And she sat with me for an hour, was completely mesmerised because I took the time to talk to her. But if we don't start explaining to girls that they have all of this opportunity in front of them, great careers, great industries, they don't know. And I think it's just a perception thing, and it really has to change from very early doors.
So I could add to that. I think what's enhanced change in diversity for construction in my industry is TikTok, Instagram, influencers, reality TV, because girls will definitely see it glamorizes, and it also shows people how easy it is to create transformation on any scale. So commercially, in your home, maybe also in your garden, because you want a great club area with a murder on the dance floor, but it has helped, to be honest. And there's a lot of TikTok videos in a more serious sense that will play you through the steps of what that industry or what that task is. And if you're in surveying, there's some really cool laser, measuring tools, and there's a lot of use of technology. And I do think Gen Z, they're a lot better at technology than what I was. And I think when I used to see a carpenter come to our house with a pencil behind his ear, on his hands full of sawdust, it wasn't a job that I wanted to do. But if I saw a TikTok video with a laser gun and I saw these amazing homes, I think that will definitely bring diversity.
I think taking advantage of technologies and going where the young people are. By the way, Gen A will enter the workforce in 2.5 years.
Wow.
Gen Z is so over. Come on. Talking to younger people and helping train them and giving them ideas and talking about everything. That's something you do as well, Neo. You do that quite a lot. Perhaps you could give us some of your experiences on that?
So I'm a guest lecturer in a number of universities in the UK, and when I go out to speak to students, mostly actually, most of the students that I speak to are either studying cosmetic science or they're studying media makeup and artistry, and I don't think they ever look at themselves as people who'd work in the manufacturing industry. So when I enlighten them about actually manufacturing could be anything, could be in retail, could be in skincare, could be anything that you're actually creating and selling out there. So I think that opens up their minds. So changing that perspective about how a manufacturer, constructor, engineer looks like is very important to change how women think, how young girls think, and actually going to the places where you'll find them, which is in media, and most of them in media and makeup, because they find that that's something they're more passionate about. So it's really helped to change what I do in teaching them about product development and manufacturing. Has really helped to change how they think.
Good answer.
Just adding to that, there's a brilliant woman called Angela Lawler who runs Marvellous Manufacturing, and she works with manufacturing companies and schools, particularly to engage young people's interest. And one of the things she does is uses examples of things that are important to young people. And she'll talk to a young woman about a hair straighteners and say, tell me 5 things you'd improve on this. Okay, if you can improve that, you're an engineer. And just little things like that, showing how engineering and manufacturing impacts our daily lives on everything we do to make life easier, is really quite important. So as well as encouraging young people into the sector, what other challenges do you see to get more diversity in? Let's start with construction.
Wow.
There's so many.
There's so many. I just think that it's all about education, isn't it? If you understand something, the fear is gone. And, it's just sort of explaining. When I was at school, nobody explained what a civil engineer is. I didn't know what civils meant. I thought it was, people sitting in offices doing, civil service jobs. So, even I know at Millennium Point here, they have an incredible built environment sort of play area. And that's where I've been bringing, sort of kids that I'm helping influence their lives, because they show sort of below the ground and so on and so forth. I think it's all down to education. If you can just open up things so that people can understand what's in front of them, you'll get people engaging in this, and then you get the diversity. I think, as you said earlier, the only thing that is a barrier is the education side of it, and understanding what's on offer.
Charlene?
I think for me, there's still challenges because the use of language in certain sectors is still not welcoming to diverse groups. So, and also there's a culture of maybe people thinking that, for instance, they may be academic, so they wouldn't necessarily think, I'm academic, I want to go to uni, so I'm going to end up in construction. But if we told them what they'd get paid, so the potential salary, and also the fact that you are a professional in your own right, you are exactly the same as a doctor, an accountant, I think that would be I think that's where the shift needs to happen myself. And I'm going to make Kirsty blush. If I'd have met somebody like Kirsty, Tehmi, Neo, when I was at school, or if I came to an event like this and they looked like this and they said, guess what? I work in steel. Guess what? I work in manufacturing. Guess what? I own a really big construction company and we've got nearly 50% of the workforce. I would have done this 20 years ago. That's, so it's things like that, isn't it?
I think all our careers and the industries we work in, they're actually brilliant industries to have a fantastic career. No industry is perfect. There isn't anything that you can go, oh, there's never any issues there, it's all wonderful. Language is important and perceptions are important. And still, you mentioned like a lot of the workforce doing the practical jobs are still men. And there's a lot of sort of, I work in a factory, or it's all big, gruff blokes, and they all have what used to be the Sun page 3 on the wall in the canteen, and they all support football, and they all do this. And that's really quite damaging as a stereotypes men, because they're, and a lot of men felt they had to be that way, even though they weren't. And for them to be able to be more open and say, well, actually, no, I'm going to the theatre on Thursday night, for them to be able to be open, perhaps about diversity within themselves, whether we're talking about if they're non-binary or if they're gay or if they've got autism, anything like that means they can be their true authentic self as well. Benefits the workforce for all men and all women. And again, it's those perceptions, but also with your culture, making sure that you can make it as inclusive as possible. And that is making it inclusive for men as for women. One of the questions I'd be interested to hear from Neo is, with manufacturing, sort of from my viewpoint in the metal sector, and then with Tehmi and Charlene in construction, because Neo manufactures botanical products, do you get any pushback because you're doing girly things?
I would say I feel like I'm not seen the same as an organization that creates maybe car parts or construction company or so on. The times I've had when I explain to people what I actually do, they look at my company as, well, you know, it's just skincare, it's just hair care. But if you think about how many people use skincare and hair care, why is it so necessary? Why do we need it? It's quite important what I do and what I teach. So yes, I see that the kind of manufacturing that I do is not as respected as I would say, as the norm, I would say.
Again, that goes back to inclusion, about manufacturing being inclusive as well. I've had some really bad experiences with the wrong face cream, and I'm sorry, but when, my skin's falling off, I kind of want it to be manufactured properly. The same way that I expect the food I eat that's been manufactured not to poison me. It's as important.
I think what I've found as a benefit, I didn't actually know this, Tehmi and me, I used to be in retail. I was in retail management for about 10 years, and I didn't think the two crossed over at all. But my point is, there's a lot of transferable skills. So you may have a job and you may have never thought that you would become a civil engineer or a construction project manager. You may be in marketing, but you're then doing marketing for an engineer, manufacturer, or a construction company. Don't put barriers up, because the more you put barriers up, change isn't going to happen. Because most of the time, if you've got the right environment, the right leader, the right employees and employers, the employees play a big part, but they soon fall in line, don't they?
Oh, they do. Mine do. I mean, is it quite interesting? What made you change from retail into construction? I didn't know that. Yeah.
So I was in retail for 10 years, fantastic career, worked for some of the really nice brands, Gucci, Prada. Can't afford them now, can't even afford Jordan 1s or Jordan 4s. Listen, we're Primani now, love. And I think, I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you about a quick little story. But I was a mum of one when I first got my first managerial position. And I did have a really nice leader. Her name was Chaya, and she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, but she was just, to me, everything. And I just wanted to know, how did she do everything so fast? She was about 5'2", and she just did everything on 10. And I just modelled myself on her. So when I first got my first managerial job, I also fell pregnant. And I changed jobs during maternity leave to another managerial job within retail. And I'd never told my regional manager that I was a mom, because I didn't want that to hinder me in any way. I was 21, and I called into my mum, because my mum was an academic. She went to uni. She was a uni lecturer. I didn't have a proper job, and I was going to get a proper job. So I wasn't going to fail. So I just thought, I'm not going to be the narrative. I'm still going to commit exactly the same. And I do think those transferable skills for the industry that we're in now, there's a lot of commitment. There's a lot of there's a lot of health and safety. So we did risk assessments, and we had KPIs. Every Monday I would be a shaking leaf to call London and to speak to Karen Hepburn to tell her what my KPIs were, and I was shaking. But you know how comfortable I am now in my own business, looking at last year and doing the trajectory for 2025 in the next 10 years. I'm confident now, because I've been doing it for 22 years, but I'm still 22. So what had happened to me, then I had a second child. So I kept up this act for 5 years as a manager. Didn't say nothing, had loads of appraisals, doing well. booking holiday because I was a manager, so I could book the holidays when it was around my daughter's birthday. It didn't matter. My daughter was my handbag. She was another Louis Vuitton. She was an extension of me. She came everywhere with me in that car seat. I had a sports car, a bucket seat. She'd sat there and she came everywhere with me. I fell pregnant for the second time and I just knew that I couldn't continue. I wouldn't be able to commit and I wouldn't be the best version of me that I knew. And also, I'd gotten married by this point and I wanted to be supported a little bit. I wanted to be a lady that lunched and I didn't want to be in at 7 and every Boxing Day and more or less Christmas Day. Late night. So I went back to school, actually, and I went back to school at Aston University and I studied accountancy. And cut a long story short, I wasn't welcomed in that industry. I'd come from this kind of fashion glamorous world in a way, even though it's a lot of hard work. Walked into a white collared office with a lot of white middle class men who weren't bubbly and happy, and they weren't, they just weren't it. So I didn't fit in. That's how I felt. And there wasn't any women like that are on the stage here to help me pull through and just say, it's okay.
I just wanted to add on the question around how to inspire inclusion and diversity, that it's not about lowering the bar. It's about widening the gap, giving more access to women, a space for women to share, any concerns they have in the workplace, allowing flexible working hours and understanding that women also have responsibilities outside work, which I think that's what a lot of women struggle with when it comes to working in industries like construction or manufacturing, is because of that. So I think it's all about really widening that gap, widening that door, and also being able to provide policies, policies to be provided that would support women in those workspaces. I think that would help with having a diverse organization.
I think that's really interesting. One of the things that has changed dramatically over the last sort of 30 years are some of the policies with regard to maternity leave and paternity leave. You might not think it's changed a lot, but my son was 10 weeks old when I went back to work because you got 12 weeks. It wasn't paid, but you got 12 weeks. And now, of course, you're going to have up to a year. Again, a lot of it isn't paid, or you'll get statutory maternity pay. People, both men and women, have caring responsibilities. And I think as we have more of a shift within society that make these caring responsibilities more equal, that's going to then reflect in the workplace. But the workplace needs to almost take the step first and go, look, John's mother needs to go to hospital every Wednesday to have chemotherapy. John wants to take his mother. It shouldn't be up to his wife to take her mother-in-law, and she might not want to, and she'll have a job as well. A lot of the policies that are in the workplace at the moment are based on quite a classist assumption. They're based on the 1960s and 70s middle class perception that the man goes to work and the woman stays at home. Now, we all know that an awful lot of women worked in the 60s and 70s, but they would be in retail or they would be in factories. So they weren't in the nice little suburban, tra-la-la, let's skip down to playgroup and then go to the butcher's and buy the supper for the evening. Yeah? A lot of women did work, but society looks at them as the fact that they didn't, that they stayed at home. It's exactly the same with COVID. My soapbox in COVID was I developed COVID Tourette's. So to and from work for a 15-hour day, when I had 5 days off all year, the radio told me I was staying at home. The radio told me I was going for 1 walk a day and baking bread. I was at work for 6 days a week because I'm in manufacturing. The bus drivers were at work. The people in Morrison's were at work. The people in factories making the food, the delivery drivers that were taking everything to the people at home who were working from home were in work. The majority of people who worked from home were a small proportion of the population, and most of them were in what I would call middle class roles. They were managers, they were this, they were that. That is fine that they could do that, but not everybody stayed home, and not everybody comes from a family where there is one breadwinner. The prices and everything today, both parents tend to work, and then you have the cost of childcare. All of this links into inclusion and diversity, and to change the narrative, we need to work on changing society. And the only way we can do that is to do it together, both men and women, and say, look, hang on, this doesn't work this way. It's going to work that way for manufacturing, construction, but it's going to work that way for everybody. And by having more men go, no, actually, it's my mom, I need to take her to the hospital appointment on a Wednesday. If their employers listen, that's going to make it easier for men and women colleagues.
Thank you so much. You've been an amazing audience. Thank you.